Chapter 15 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is straight-up drama central with a side of power struggles, rebellion, and some deep moments that hit harder than an emotional anime flashback. By now, McMurphy has cemented himself as the chaotic wildcard who's shaking up the system, but Nurse Ratched? Oh, she's not about to let her throne crumble without a fight. This chapter feels like the halfway point in a battle anime where both sides start throwing heavier punches, setting the stage for the final showdown. The chapter kicks off with a meeting of the ward's little therapeutic group sessions, aka Ratched's arena of manipulation. This time, though, the focus is on McMurphy's impact on the ward, and man, the shade is real. Nurse Ratched is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, throwing out comments about how McMurphy's behavior isn't as charming as it seems. She's low-key trying to paint him as this selfish manipulator who's only out for himself, hoping to turn the other patients against him. It's like that villain who tries to undermine the hero by planting doubt in everyone's minds. Classic. McMurphy, on the other hand, is sitting there with his usual smirk, acting like this is all a joke. He doesn't back down or try to explain himself. Instead, he kind of leans into it, throwing out jokes and one-liners like he's in a stand-up set. But you can tell that some of the patients are starting to feel conflicted. They've been hyped up by McMurphy's rebellious energy, but Ratched's manipulative words hit a nerve. It's giving major Avengers Civil War vibes, like, you know the squad's going to stick together eventually, but for now, there's tension in the air. The real kicker, though, comes when McMurphy starts realizing just how far Ratched is willing to go to maintain control. She's like a final boss with endless health points, always one step ahead. During the session, McMurphy learns about something called the shock shop, which is exactly what it sounds like, electroshock therapy as punishment for stepping out of line. And the real gut punch? McMurphy finds out that Ratched basically controls how long he stays in the ward. All that talk about his sentence being only 68 days? Yeah, that's out the window. She can keep him locked up indefinitely if she feels like it. This realization hits McMurphy like a brick to the face. He's been playing this game thinking he's just a temporary character passing through, but now he's realizing he's stuck in this ward for the long haul unless he plays it smart. You can see the gears turning in his head. For the first time, he's not laughing or joking, he's really thinking about what his next move should be. It's like when a gamer realizes they've been playing on easy mode, only to discover they've been in a nightmare-level dungeon the whole time. Meanwhile, the patients are watching all this unfold, and you can feel the shift in their attitudes. McMurphy's been their symbol of freedom and defiance, but now they're seeing the risks involved. It's not just fun and games anymore, there are real stakes, and they're starting to question whether it's worth it. Even Chief Bromden, who's been inspired by McMurphy's courage, is feeling the weight of what's happening. Bromden's inner monologue during this chapter is pure poetry, by the way. He sees the ward as this giant, grinding machine, and McMurphy's rebellion is like a small cog trying to jam the gears. It's beautiful and sad at the same time. By the end of the chapter, you can tell that McMurphy's energy has shifted. He's not defeated, but he's definitely more cautious. He's still cracking jokes and keeping the mood light, but you can feel the tension under the surface. He's like that anime protagonist who's taken a big hit but refuses to let the squad see him sweat. He knows the fight isn't over, but he's also starting to understand just how dangerous Nurse Ratched really is. This chapter is a turning point, no doubt. It's where McMurphy stops being just the funny, rebellious guy and starts becoming a real leader for the patients. He's carrying the weight of their hopes and dreams, but now he's also facing the harsh reality of what it'll cost to take down Ratched's system. It's deep, it's dramatic, and it's setting the stage for some major confrontations down the line. Buckle up, because things are about to get wild. Alright, so chapter 16 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where McMurphy goes full-on social engineer, shaking up the ward's depressing routine like a gamer hacking into a system just for fun. But this time, he's not just trolling, he's really starting to inspire the other patients to question Nurse Ratched's power. Picture McMurphy as the team captain in a broken-down MMORPG guild, trying to get everyone to stop following the NPC rules and actually play the game their way. And Nurse Ratched? Oh, she's getting triggered every second because her perfectly controlled vibes are slipping hard. The chapter kicks off with group therapy, which we already know is less healing circle and more like Ratched's favorite roast show. She's picking apart everyone's insecurities, trying to keep them weak, but McMurphy's not having it. Instead of letting her run the table, he starts challenging her authority in these sneaky, playful ways. It's like watching someone bait a boss in Dark Souls, dodging every attack while smirking. He makes jokes, eggs the others on to speak up, and low-key shows them that she's not as invincible as she seems. Then, the whole shaving incident happens. Basically, Ratched enforces this ridiculous rule that everyone has to shave every morning, even though it makes some of the guys, like poor old Cheswick, super uncomfortable. When McMurphy hears about this, he flips out. He's like, what even is this rule? Who's this actually helping? He calls her out on her power tripping, but instead of going nuclear, he keeps it cool and sarcastic. It's peak McMurphy energy, fighting back while making it a joke everyone can laugh at, except for Ratched, who's seething under her icy smile. The tension ramps up when McMurphy tries to help Cheswick actually stand up for himself. Cheswick's one of those guys who's been beaten down so long he's forgotten what self-respect even feels like. But McMurphy? He's hyping him up like a coach giving a halftime speech. Cheswick finally snaps and demands a little dignity, which is a big deal for someone who's always been afraid to even raise his voice. It's a small win, but it's clear Ratched is starting to lose her grip, and you can see her plotting her next power move. The real MVP of this chapter, though, might just be Chief Bromden. He's still playing the silent observer, but you can tell McMurphy's energy is waking something up inside him. Chief's been living in this mental fog for years, but now he's starting to question if maybe, just maybe, he can fight back too. It's like watching a side character in an RPG realize they've got main character potential. McMurphy's shaking things up for everyone, even the ones who seem too far gone. By the end of the chapter, you can feel the stakes rising. The ward is no longer this perfectly controlled machine, and McMurphy's the glitch that's threatening to crash the whole system. But you also get the sense that Ratched isn't going to let him get away with it forever. She's like that cold, calculating villain who's quietly setting up her counterattack while everyone else thinks they've got her on the ropes. The chapter ends with the simmering tension, like the next big confrontation is just waiting to pop off. It's clear McMurphy's changing the game, and the question is, how long can he keep winning? Alright, chapter 17 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where things get wild in that emotional gut punch but still inspiring kind of way. McMurphy is in full-on squad leader mode, rallying the crew, but cracks are starting to show, both in him and in the ward's so-called order. It's like when the party in an RPG starts leveling up but also realizes the final boss is going to be way tougher than they thought. So, the chapter kicks off with McMurphy still riding the high of being the ward's unofficial hype man. The guys are more confident, laughing louder, and even standing up to the staff a little. McMurphy's energy is contagious, and the patients are finally catching a vibe that they don't have to bow down to Nurse Ratched's every whim. It's like he gave them all cheat codes for self-respect. The ward feels less like a depressing grind and more like the first season of a feel-good anime where the underdogs start believing they've got a shot. But then, reality slaps McMurphy in the face like a surprise Dark Souls boss. During group therapy, Ratched pulls one of her signature moves. She starts picking at their insecurities like a bully who's way too good at emotional warfare. She singles out Cheswick, who's been one of McMurphy's biggest cheerleaders, and makes him question everything. Poor Cheswick just crumbles under the pressure, and it's a rough look for everyone. McMurphy tries to step in, but for the first time, you see him hesitate. He's starting to realize how high the stakes really are. Ratched doesn't just want control, she wants submission. And she's willing to crush anyone to get it. Meanwhile, Chief Bromden is watching all this go down like he's got backstage passes to the chaos. His narration here is next-level introspective, full of metaphors about machinery and the system grinding people down. He's waking up more and more, realizing that McMurphy isn't just a clown, he's a legit leader who's putting himself on the line for the squad. By the end, you can feel the tension rising like the build-up to a final battle. McMurphy's still got that rebellious fire, but there's a weight to his actions now. He's not just messing with Ratched for fun, he's fighting for these guys' humanity, even if it means risking his own. It's equal parts inspiring and heartbreaking, like when you realize your favorite hero is setting themselves up for a tragic sacrifice. Stay tuned, because this fight is only getting messier. Alright, chapter 18 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a straight-up turning point where things get messy, intense, and real. McMurphy's still the king of trolling Nurse Ratched, but now the stakes are climbing faster than your stress in a boss fight. This chapter? It's where the cracks in McMurphy's armor start to show, but dude is still holding strong, carrying the team like a legend. So, the setup, McMurphy and the boys are really feeling the vibe of their newfound freedom after all his rebellion shenanigans. They've been laughing more, standing up to Ratched in small ways, and generally not letting her kill their spirits. But of course, Ratched isn't just gonna sit there and take it. She's scheming like she's got a 200 IQ, trying to figure out how to break McMurphy without looking like the villain. Classic toxic authority move. Enter this ridiculous situation involving the bathing room. Ratched, in her infinite wisdom, insists on putting some strict rule in place about how the patients take their showers. It's all part of her power trip, acting like the ward is her personal dictatorship. McMurphy, being McMurphy, sees this as an opportunity to throw shade and keep the rebellion alive. He turns what should have been a mundane moment into a full-blown spectacle, rallying the guys and taking another jab at her control. But then the vibes shift fast. Things go sideways when McMurphy realizes how far Ratched is willing to go to keep her power. She makes her move by zeroing in on one of the patients, trying to use psychological pressure to set an example. McMurphy can see the effect this is having, especially on people like Billy Bibbit and Chief Bromden, who are slowly finding their voices thanks to his leadership. It's a reality check that shows him this isn't just a game anymore. If he loses, it's not just him who pays, everyone goes down with him. By the end of the chapter, McMurphy's defiance is still there, but you can tell he's starting to weigh his actions more carefully. The chapter feels like one of those anime episodes where the hero takes a hit, learns the stakes are real, but still refuses to back down. McMurphy's energy is less reckless chaos and more calculated resistance now, and the tension? Sky high. It's Ratched versus McMurphy, and this ward is about to blow up. Alright, so chapter 19 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where the chaos really starts brewing. McMurphy, our guy, has been out here wrecking Nurse Ratched's whole vibe, but now the stakes are getting real. Picture this, McMurphy's been leading the charge for freedom and fun in the soul-sucking ward, and now he's got the squad hyped for a fishing trip. Yep, you read that right. A fishing trip. It's like he's unlocking a side quest in a grimdark RPG to remind everyone there's a world outside this gloomy dungeon. But first, he's gotta hustle hard to make it happen. McMurphy goes full influencer mode, hyping up the trip to the patients like it's the party of the century. He's telling wild stories, selling tickets, and even rounding up women from outside to tag along. It's giving Grand Theft Auto vibes with all the scheming, but instead of robbing banks, he's robbing these dudes of their apathy. Meanwhile, Nurse Ratched is fuming. You just know she's plotting a major power move to keep McMurphy in check. The chapter is all about McMurphy's growing influence and the squad waking up to the fact that life can be more than meds and schedules. It's chaotic, inspiring, and pure McMurphy energy. Alright, chapters 20 and 21 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest are straight up fire, with McMurphy turning the ward into the kind of chaotic energy you'd expect in the wildest slice of life anime episode. So, here's the sitch, McMurphy is hyping everyone up for the fishing trip he's planned, and it's like the ultimate jailbreak vibe, except instead of breaking out of a prison, they're trying to escape Nurse Ratched's iron grip of doom. She's pulling out all the stops to sabotage the trip, subtly planting seeds of fear in the patients, saying stuff like, what if the boat sinks? What if you all die? Classic scare tactics. But McMurphy? The man's unbothered. He's out here brushing off her mind games like he's mastered Ultra Instinct. He's cracking jokes, talking big, and being all around that guy. His charisma's on max stats, and you can see the patients starting to believe in themselves a little more, even as they hesitate. At the same time, McMurphy's playing a risky game with Ratched. He knows she's got the upper hand in the long term, but he's living in the moment, throwing shade her way like it's a sport. The fishing trip finally kicks off in chapter 21, and it's as chaotic as you'd expect. The crew feels like a group of mismatched anime heroes, none of them seem cut out for this, but somehow, they're thriving. They're laughing, joking, and for once, they look like actual humans having a good time instead of lifeless drones. Even the doc comes along, looking like he's finally escaped from a corporate meeting. The trip is symbolic AF. It's freedom, rebellion, and proving to themselves that they're more than Nurse Ratched's pawns. McMurphy's officially got these dudes seeing the light, and you can bet Ratched is losing her mind back at the ward. It's messy, it's hilarious, and it's one big middle finger to the Combine. Alright, chapter 22 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where things go from chaotic to straight up unhinged, in the best way possible. McMurphy has had enough of playing by Nurse Ratched's rules, so he decides to throw a party so wild it might as well have been ripped from a teen comedy or a classic anime beach episode, minus the beach. Except here, it's less about bikinis and more about flipping the bird to authority. McMurphy's got this genius idea to smuggle in booze and 2 women, Candy and Sandy. Yup, that's right, he's turning the ward into his personal party zone. He ropes in the night aide, Tickle, who's basically like, as long as I get paid, I don't care, and the plan goes full stealth mode. Picture sneaking past guards in Metal Gear Solid, but instead of saving the world, it's all about partying and breaking Nurse Ratched's iron grip. Once the crew's assembled, the energy is wild. Everyone's vibing, the drinks are flowing, and for once, the ward feels alive. Even the most timid patients are cutting loose, like they're in some alternate reality where they actually have freedom. McMurphy makes sure Candy spends some quality time with Billy Bibbit, trying to help him break out of his shell. Billy's been so beat down by his mom's and Ratched's control that this is like his chance to finally level up in confidence. It's awkward and sweet in the most chaotic way possible. But, like every epic party in a coming-of-age movie, you know it can't last. McMurphy gets so into the moment that he loses track of time. By the time morning rolls around, Ratched shows up, ready to rain hellfire. The ward's a mess, the patients are hungover, and Ratched's got receipts for every broken rule. The tension is through the roof as she glares McMurphy down, like a villain charging their ultimate attack. This chapter? It's a masterpiece of rebellion and bonding, but it's also McMurphy's fatal mistake. His party wasn't just about fun, it was about giving the guys a taste of freedom. Now they've seen it, they want more, and that's exactly what Ratched can't allow. This is the beginning of the end, and you can feel the storm brewing. Alright, so chapter 23 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where things really get spicy. Picture this, McMurphy, our chaotic antihero who's like a mix of Deadpool and Luffy from One Piece, has been turning the Psych ward into his own little playground. The guy's been pushing Nurse Ratched's buttons like it's a Mortal Kombat combo, and she's about to throw down the ultimate boss battle move. But McMurphy? Oh, he's not sweating it. Dude's too busy stirring the pot. So, McMurphy and the crew have been sneaking around like ninjas, brewing up their own little rebellion. They're playing cards, pulling pranks, and straight up vibing. It's like they're in a bootleg version of Stranger Things, trying to outwit the system. McMurphy is hyping up the guys, making them feel alive again, which is kinda sweet when you think about it. But then Nurse Ratched, the queen of passive-aggressive power plays, starts tightening her grip. She's all about keeping order, and McMurphy is out here trying to dethrone her like he's gunning for the Iron Throne. In this chapter, the tension is next level. McMurphy is trying to show the guys how to break free from her psychological hold, even if it's just through little victories. It's like watching an anime training arc, but instead of punching bad guys, they're reclaiming their dignity. McMurphy's charisma is off the charts, but there's this undercurrent of danger, like when you know a horror movie is about to go full send. He's the spark that could light a fire, or get everyone burned. Alright, let's dive into chapter 24 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where things get straight up wild. Imagine the Psych ward as this lockdown arena, and McMurphy's the ultimate rogue player trying to glitch the system while Nurse Ratched is the overpowered final boss who's impossible to cheese. In this chapter, the stakes crank up, and the whole vibe feels like someone's about to drop the biggest plot twist ever. So here's the tea, McMurphy, our boy who's been low-key leading the ward like a shonen anime protagonist, has cooked up another scheme, and it's gonna be big. He's been working the system, hyping up the patients, and making Nurse Ratched look like a clown in front of everyone. At this point, the ward isn't even a ward anymore, it's his stage. The other patients? They're all slowly waking up from their mental fog, like NPCs realizing they've got main character energy. McMurphy's teaching them to flex their independence, even if it's just in small ways. But let's be real, this is McMurphy we're talking about. Dude doesn't do small. Now, here's the kicker, this chapter is all about the fishing trip. McMurphy, being the ultimate hype man, convinces the guys to sneak out and go fishing on a boat. It's giving major One Piece pirate vibes. The idea is wild, like, how do you even smuggle a bunch of patients out of a locked psych ward? But McMurphy's charm is like a cheat code, and somehow, he makes it happen. The way he sells it is legendary. He's all, we're gonna break out of this cage and feel alive for once. And the guys? They're so pumped, they're ready to follow him into the freaking ocean. This fishing trip isn't just about catching fish, it's about catching freedom. The patients are all nervous at first, like they're about to jump into a multiplayer match without knowing the controls. Some of them have been so beaten down by the system that they're scared to even imagine a world outside Nurse Ratched's rules. But McMurphy? He's like, nah, fam, we're doing this. And slowly, the guys start to believe they can. The trip itself is straight chaos, but in the best way. Picture a group of misfits who've never been on a boat trying to figure out how to fish, while McMurphy's out there acting like the captain of the Thousand Sunny. It's a whole vibe. They're clumsy, loud, and honestly terrible at fishing, but it doesn't even matter. For the first time, these dudes feel like they're in control of something. The ocean is their arena, and Nurse Ratched can't touch them out there. But here's the thing that hits hard, this isn't just a fun little field trip. It's symbolic, you know? These guys have been trapped in a system that's stripped them of their humanity, and now they're out here, free, laughing, and living. For once, they're not patients, they're just guys hanging out. McMurphy's basically like that one anime mentor who shows the squad that they're capable of more than they think. And Chief Bromden? My guy is starting to wake up in a big way. You can feel him slowly stepping out of the shadows, like he's about to have his character arc glow up. Of course, McMurphy's antics aren't all sunshine and rainbows. The guy's walking a tightrope, and you can sense that the ward isn't gonna let him keep winning forever. Nurse Ratched is still lurking in the background, and you know she's plotting something. It's like when you're in a boss fight and you know the villain's about to hit you with a second phase that's even worse. McMurphy doesn't care, though. He's all in, and he's dragging everyone with him, consequences be damned. By the end of the chapter, you're left with this electric mix of hope and dread. The fishing trip is a massive win, and for a moment, it feels like McMurphy's rebellion might actually work. The guys are smiling, feeling alive, and even flexing their confidence when they return to the ward. But there's this dark undercurrent, like the calm before the storm. You can tell Nurse Ratched isn't gonna take this L lightly. McMurphy's playing a dangerous game, and the cracks are starting to show. But for now, he's their hero, their captain, their spark of hope in a system designed to crush it. This chapter is everything, a heist, a comedy, a redemption arc, and a ticking time bomb all rolled into one. It's the kind of story that makes you want to root for the underdogs, even when you know the system is stacked against them. McMurphy's the MVP, no doubt, but the real magic is how he gets the others to believe in themselves. It's like he's handed them the controller and said, here, play the game your way. And for the first time, they do. Alright, buckle up, because chapter 25 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is straight up chaos, packed with drama, tension, and some big brain moves from McMurphy. If this story were a video game, this chapter would be that intense cutscene where all the choices you've made so far start stacking up, and you can tell the boss battle is coming. The psych ward is basically on fire, not literally, but the vibes are lit, and McMurphy? My guy is out here playing 4D chess while everyone else is stuck playing checkers. So, the chapter kicks off with McMurphy being his usual legend self. He's been on a winning streak since the fishing trip, boosting the confidence of the other patients and making Nurse Ratched look like a total noob in front of her own crew. The guys are finally standing up for themselves, feeling like actual humans instead of cogs in her machine. You know that moment in an anime when the underdog squad starts believing they can take on the big bad? That's the vibe here. But hold up, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's this dark energy creeping in, like when you're in a game and the music shifts, signaling something's about to go down. McMurphy's got this side hustle going now, running a gambling operation with the patients. He's raking in the dough, winning every hand, and flexing his charisma like he's in a casino anime. It's slick, but not everyone's thrilled. Some of the guys are starting to wonder if McMurphy is really about that helping us be free life or if he's just using them for his own gain. Billy Bibbit and Cheswick? They're still all in on Team McMurphy, but Harding and a few others are throwing him side-eye, like, is this dude legit, or is he hustling us? It's giving major Among Us energy, and McMurphy's starting to look a little sus. But here's the twist, McMurphy doesn't seem to care what anyone thinks. He's riding high, acting like he's invincible. And honestly, it's hard not to root for him. The dude's been outmaneuvering Nurse Ratched at every turn, and it's satisfying to watch her lose control. She's seething, trying to find a way to shut him down, but McMurphy's 10 steps ahead. It's like watching Light and Elle from Death Note go at it, but instead of notebooks, they're battling over the souls of the patients. Then, bam, Nurse Ratched makes her move. She announces that there's going to be a vote on whether to get rid of the taproom card games, which is McMurphy's home turf. It's a calculated strike, designed to hit him where it hurts. The vote? It's a mess. Some of the guys side with McMurphy, but others chicken out because they're too scared to cross Nurse Ratched. And honestly, you can't blame them. She's got that quiet, sinister energy, like a villain who doesn't yell but just stares you down until you fold. The vote doesn't go McMurphy's way, and for the first time, it feels like he's losing control. It's a heavy moment, and you can feel the shift in power. But McMurphy? Oh, he's not going down without a fight. Dude's got this never-say-die energy, and he decides to flip the script in the most McMurphy way possible. He challenges the system, literally. He bets that he can lift the massive control panel in the top room, this huge piece of equipment that's bolted to the floor. Everyone's like, bro, what are you even doing, because the thing looks like it weighs as much as a car. But McMurphy's got that anime protagonist energy, all fired up and determined to prove a point. He's like, watch me. Spoiler alert, he can't lift it. He tries, and it's this raw, emotional moment where you see him putting everything he's got into it, but the control panel doesn't budge. The patients are watching, and you can tell they're torn. Part of them is rooting for him, but part of them is ready to see him fail because it proves what they've believed all along: you can't beat the system. When McMurphy finally gives up, he looks at the guys and says, at least I tried. And that? That hits different. It's a mic drop moment that shows why he's such a legend. He's not just fighting for himself, he's showing these guys what it means to push back, even when the odds are stacked against you. The vibe after that is heavy. McMurphy's lost some of his shine, and you can feel the doubt creeping in. The patients are questioning him, questioning themselves, and questioning whether they can ever really be free. It's like the morale bar in a strategy game just took a huge hit. But then, something magical happens. Chief Bromden, who's been mostly silent this whole time, starts to step up. You can tell he's been watching McMurphy closely, and this moment sparks something in him. It's like the start of his hero's journey, and you can feel that big things are coming. Nurse Ratched, meanwhile, is sitting back like a smug villain who thinks she's won. She's got that I told you so energy, but you know McMurphy isn't out of the game yet. He's bruised, sure, but he's not broken. And if there's one thing this chapter makes clear, it's that McMurphy doesn't play by anyone's rules but his own. By the end of the chapter, the ward feels like it's at a tipping point. McMurphy's rebellion has sparked something in the patients, even if it's not fully realized yet. They're starting to see that they don't have to live under Nurse Ratched's thumb forever. But it's also clear that the fight isn't over, not by a long shot. Nurse Ratched is still in control, and she's not about to let McMurphy or anyone else take her down without a battle. This chapter is a roller coaster of emotions, packed with highs, lows, and everything in between. It's about fighting the system, taking risks, and refusing to back down even when the odds are stacked against you. McMurphy's not perfect, far from it, but he's exactly what the patients need: a spark, a leader, and a reminder that sometimes, just trying is a victory in itself. It's messy, it's chaotic, and it's so human. And you can't help but wonder what's next, because one thing's for sure, the game is far from over. Alright, chapter 26 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is like when you're watching an epic showdown, and the hero starts taking LS. McMurphy, our chaotic, loudmouth legend, is looking kinda tired, like he's been carrying the whole rebellion on his back, and the weight is finally getting to him. But don't worry, he's still throwing punches, even if they're not landing as hard as they used to. It's one of those chapters where the vibes are off, and you just know things are about to hit the fan. So, here's the deal: Nurse Ratched is back on her power trip, trying to reel McMurphy in after all his wild antics. The fishing trip? The vote on the tub room? The gambling hustle? Yeah, she's not about to let any of that slide. It's like she's Thanos, slowly collecting all the Infinity Stones of authority, while McMurphy's out here with no plan, just vibes. You can tell she's waiting for her moment to strike, and McMurphy? He's still pushing boundaries, but the cracks are starting to show. The ward is getting real tense. McMurphy is still clowning on Nurse Ratched, making jokes and running his usual shtick, but it's not hitting the same. The patients are picking up on his exhaustion. Even Chief Bromden notices that McMurphy isn't as sharp as he used to be. It's like watching your favorite streamer burn out mid-game. You want to cheer for them, but you can tell they're running on empty. Then, bam, McMurphy sets up this boxing match with one of the black orderlies. Yeah, you heard me, this dude is so fed up with the system that he's like, let's throw hands, literally. It's peak McMurphy, but it's also giving desperate Hail Mary energy. The orderly he challenges is a huge dude, built like a tank, but McMurphy doesn't even flinch. He's got this scrappy underdog thing going on, like he's Deku from My Hero Academia, ready to give it his all even if it destroys him. The fight? It's messy. McMurphy doesn't exactly win, but that's not the point. The point is that he's still out here, refusing to back down, showing the patients what it means to fight, even when the odds are trash. It's raw, chaotic, and honestly kind of inspiring, but also low-key heartbreaking. McMurphy's taking a beating, not just in the fight but in life. You can tell he's wearing down, and it's hard to watch. Meanwhile, Nurse Ratched is lurking like the final boss she is, waiting for her chance to strike. She's pulling her usual moves, keeping the ward locked down and trying to make McMurphy look bad in front of the others. But here's the twist: her grip on the patients isn't as strong as it used to be. McMurphy has sparked something in them, and they're starting to resist her in small, quiet ways. It's like the rebellion is still alive, even if McMurphy's the one taking all the heat. By the end of the chapter, you're left feeling uneasy. McMurphy's fire isn't out, but it's definitely flickering. You can tell he's at a crossroads. Does he keep fighting and risk burning out completely, or does he back down and let Nurse Ratched win? It's a heavy moment, and you're just sitting there like, dude, please don't give up. But knowing McMurphy, you can't imagine him ever bowing down, even if it costs him everything. Chapter 26 is like watching a hero on the ropes. McMurphy's still got his spark, but the system is wearing him down, one punch at a time. The tension is building, the stakes are higher than ever, and you can feel the storm brewing. It's the calm before the chaos, and you know the next move is gonna be big, one way or another. Alright, chapter 27 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is where the story slams the gas pedal and takes a sharp turn into pure chaos. Imagine the psych ward like a simmering pot, and this chapter is when it boils over. McMurphy, who's been the king of chaos this whole time, is about to face the fallout from his endless trolling of Nurse Ratched. The tension? Maxed out. The drama? Chef's kiss. The vibes? Uneasy as heck. So here's the scoop, after everything, McMurphy's pranks, the boxing match, the fishing trip, you'd think he'd be ready to chill, right? Nope. This guy does not know the meaning of lay low. Instead, he doubles down, like he's speedrunning a self-destruction route in a game. Nurse Ratched, meanwhile, is playing the long game, plotting her ultimate power move. She's been letting McMurphy burn himself out, waiting for her moment to strike, and now it's about to go down. The chapter kicks off with McMurphy and the patients planning this late-night party, and it's giving total last hurrah energy. McMurphy convinces the night orderly, Tickle, to let them smuggle in booze and even some ladies. Yeah, you read that right, McMurphy is out here turning the psych ward into a frat house. He's like, if the system's gonna crush us, we might as well go out with a bang. The patients? They're all in. It's the kind of wild, reckless plan that could only come from McMurphy's brain. When the night of the party rolls around, it's pure madness. Everyone's drinking, laughing, and acting like they're free for the first time in forever. McMurphy's hyping up the vibe like a DJ at a rager, and for a moment, it's like the ward isn't a prison anymore. Billy Bibbit, who's always been the shy, anxious one, gets some major spotlight here. He connects with one of the women McMurphy brings in, and it's this sweet, awkward, kind of heartbreaking moment. You're rooting for him, but also cringing because you know it's all gonna come crashing down. And crash down it does. The morning after, the ward looks like a battlefield. Patients are passed out, the place is trashed, and Nurse Ratched walks in like the final boss in a JRPG, ready to end everyone's fun. The energy shifts immediately. She finds Billy with the woman and shames him so hard it's like watching a villain monologue in slow motion. Billy, poor guy, just crumbles. The power she has over him is next level messed up, and it's clear she's been waiting for this chance to reassert her control. What happens next is brutal. Billy, completely broken by Nurse Ratched's manipulative guilt trip, ends up taking his own life. It's this gut punch moment that hits you out of nowhere, and it's clear that Nurse Ratched knew exactly what she was doing. The ward, once alive with laughter and rebellion, falls into this suffocating silence. Everyone's devastated, but none more than McMurphy. And McMurphy? Oh, he's done playing games. When he sees what Nurse Ratched has done to Billy, it's like a switch flips in him. He snaps. Dude charges at her, full-on berserk mode, and tries to strangle her. It's raw, chaotic, and kind of terrifying. For a second, you think, is he actually gonna do it? But the orderlies pull him off before he can finish the job. The ward is left in shock, and McMurphy is dragged away, his fate sealed. By the end of the chapter, the rebellion McMurphy sparked feels like it's been crushed, and the ward is back under Nurse Ratched's icy grip. But even in all this darkness, you can't help but feel like McMurphy's fight wasn't for nothing. He showed the patients what it meant to stand up for themselves, even if it came at a huge cost. It's one of those bittersweet, punch-you-in-the-gut moments that stays with you long after you've read it. Alright, chapter 28 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is the grand finale, and let me tell you, it does not hold back. Imagine the end of a dystopian anime or the final boss fight of a video game where everything is on the line and you're just praying your favorite character doesn't get nerfed. Spoiler alert, it's intense, emotional, and leaves you sitting there, staring at the page like, what just happened? So, here's the deal, McMurphy's big showdown with Nurse Ratched in the last chapter? Yeah, it left the ward completely shook. Billy Bibbit's tragic end, McMurphy's explosion, and the way the party chaos got shut down have cast this giant shadow over everything. Nurse Ratched is down, but she's not out, more like she's regrouping and doubling down on her reign of terror. She survived McMurphy's attack, but barely. He went straight for her throat, and honestly, you kind of wish he'd finished the job. Now, she's wearing a neck brace like a badge of honor, playing the role of the wounded queen. The vibe in the ward? Dead. Morale is non-existent, and the patients are back under her thumb. But wait, it gets worse. McMurphy, our chaotic king, is gone. Like, not just in trouble gone, but shipped off for a lobotomy gone. The moment you realize that's where they've sent him, it's like a punch to the gut. Remember when you played Undertale for the first time, and you accidentally triggered the genocide route instead of pacifist? Yeah, that level of regret and heartbreak. Everyone's in denial at first, holding on to this sliver of hope that McMurphy might somehow come back and save them again, but deep down, they know the truth, the system finally got him. When they bring McMurphy back to the ward, it's not the same guy who lit up the place with his wild energy and rebellious spirit. This version of McMurphy is hollow, he's been turned into a shell of himself, a walking symbol of what happens when you go up against Nurse Ratched and lose. The lobotomy basically erases everything that made him who he was. It's like watching your favorite character in an anime get brainwashed or lose all their powers right after a huge victory. The other patients are devastated. They look at McMurphy, and it's clear that the guy they knew is gone. The energy in the ward is a mix of anger, heartbreak, and helplessness. It's like the final straw for everyone. And then there's Chief Bromden. My guy. If this chapter has a real hero, it's him. Chief has been quietly watching everything unfold, learning from McMurphy, and rediscovering his strength. It's like he's been leveling up in the background, and now, he's ready to step into the spotlight. Seeing McMurphy like this? It breaks him, but it also lights a fire in him. He knows that McMurphy wouldn't want to live this way, as some lifeless puppet controlled by the system he fought so hard against. Chief makes a decision, a heavy, heartbreaking decision, but it's one that feels right. He smothers McMurphy with a pillow, ending his suffering in one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in the whole book. It's brutal, but it's also an act of mercy. Chief doesn't just end McMurphy's pain, he ensures that Nurse Ratched can't use him as a symbol of her power. But Chief doesn't stop there. He's not about to let McMurphy's legacy fade away in that hellhole. Inspired by everything McMurphy taught him, Chief decides it's time to bounce. He's been playing small for years, pretending to be invisible, but now? He's done with that. It's like his protagonist moment, the part where he finally steps into his power. Chief goes full Hulk mode and lifts the control panel, the same one McMurphy couldn't budge earlier in the story, and throws it through the window. It's this insane, triumphant moment that feels like a level-cleared victory screen. The sound of the glass shattering is like freedom itself. The other patients hear it, and you just know that even if they don't leave the ward themselves, they'll never be the same. And then Chief is gone. He escapes into the night, finally free from the suffocating grip of the hospital and Nurse Ratched's control. The ending doesn't tie everything up in a neat little bow, it's bittersweet, messy, and raw. But it's also hopeful. Chief's escape feels like a win, like proof that McMurphy's fight wasn't for nothing. Sure, McMurphy's gone, but what he stood for, resistance, freedom, individuality, that lives on through Chief and the others. Chapter 28 hits you like an emotional truck. It's devastating, but it's also empowering in a weird way. McMurphy may not have survived, but his spirit did, and that's what makes this ending stick with you. It's about fighting back, even when the odds are against you, and finding your own strength, no matter how long it takes. Alright, Chapter 29 of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is the grand finale, a mic drop moment where everything that's been brewing finally boils over, and the aftermath hits hard. It's like the end of a killer RPG, where the last boss is defeated, but not without sacrifice, and you're left staring at the credits feeling both wrecked and weirdly hopeful. Let's dive in. So, the chapter kicks off right where the chaos from before left us. Chief Bromden is front and center. McMurphy, our rebellious, laugh-in-the-face-of-authority hero, is gone. And not just moved on, gone. I mean, he's been lobotomized into oblivion, and Nurse Ratched is probably somewhere smirking like the villain who thinks she won. The ward is dead silent, and everyone's feeling it. McMurphy's spark is gone, and the system looks like it's officially back on top. But here's the kicker, McMurphy's rebellion didn't die with him. Instead, it's like the guy planted a seed, and now Chief is stepping up as the new face of the fight. Chief looks at lobotomized McMurphy and knows he can't leave him like that. It's too cruel. The man who fought so hard for freedom and individuality is now just a hollow shell, and it's clear McMurphy would rather die than exist as Nurse Ratched's trophy. So Chief makes the ultimate call, he takes a pillow and ends McMurphy's suffering. Yeah, it's heavy. But somehow, it feels right. Chief isn't just putting McMurphy out of his misery, he's making sure Ratched doesn't get to use him as a victory flag. It's like saying, you can kill the man, but you'll never kill the revolution. It's dark, but it's also poetic. Like when a main character in Attack on Titan sacrifices themselves to save the others, it guts you, but you get why it had to happen. And this moment? It changes everything for Chief. All the fear and silence that's been choking him for years? Gone. McMurphy woke something up in him, and now Chief's ready to break free, both literally and metaphorically. He sees the control panel, the one McMurphy once tried to lift in a show of strength, and this time, Chief actually does it. He hauls that thing like it's no big deal and smashes it straight through the window. Glass shatters, and for the first time, the ward feels alive again. It's this epic, triumphant moment, like the final blow in a boss fight where you're down to 1 HP but still manage to pull off a critical hit. The sound of that glass breaking isn't just noise, it's a battle cry, a middle finger to the system that tried to crush them all. Chief doesn't look back. He escapes into the night, stepping out into a world that's been waiting for him all along. The fog that's clouded his mind for years is gone, and you can feel the weight lifting off his shoulders as he runs. He's free, really, truly free, and it's all because McMurphy showed him how to fight. Chief's escape isn't just for him either. It's for every patient left in the ward, a reminder that even under Nurse Ratched's iron grip, freedom is possible. You just have to be brave enough to go for it. The chapter ends with Chief running into the wild, ready to take on whatever comes next. He doesn't know what the future holds, but that's the point. It's open, limitless, and for the first time, his McMurphy might not have made it out alive, but his spirit is alive and kicking in Chief, who's carrying that legacy of rebellion and freedom out into the real world. Chapter 29 is a gut punch and a fist pump all rolled into one. It's tragic, sure, but it's also the most hopeful ending you could ask for in a story this raw. Chief escapes, Ratched loses her grip on the patients, and McMurphy's fight isn't forgotten. It's the perfect mix of heartbreak and triumph, like finishing an anime that rips your soul out but still leaves you inspired. In the end, it's not about winning against the system, it's about refusing to let it break you. And Chief? He's proof that sometimes, the quietest people can end up making the loudest noise.